Hello everybody, this is Mike, and I don't know what it is about this channel. My other channel I can set up when I want to get on and let them know ahead of time I'm coming, and for some reason on this one I just, I hit stream and it automatically goes live. So anyway, it is what it is. So today I want to talk to you about anger. For those of you, of course, who are new to the channel, this is a channel devoted for non-borderlines who have been in romantic relationships with somebody who has severely untreated, unmanaged borderline personality disorder or any other cluster B personality, but specifically borderline personality disorder. I am somebody who survived a very toxic relationship, and I learned a hell of a lot, and I'm here to share with you, most importantly, how you can heal, how you can get your life back. For some of you, you may not have ever had your life. You may have been limping along through life and you found your borderline, now you're even limping even more and you're still trying to find who you are. So I share with you from a practical perspective, from an experiential perspective, what I did to achieve a state of recovery. And I am in a state of recovery. I had a horrific experience. It completely destroyed me, devalued me, and made life, not worth living. And I had a very hard time in the beginning just being. So that's the purpose of this channel, is to help you with that. Borderlines are also welcome. There are some that watch my channel. And so, as you know, I am here to help people heal. I would have a much more popular channel if I complained and whined and, shook my finger, which I do sometimes. I'm very real about what my experience of being on the other side of borderline personality disorder is. I'm very real about that. And I'm very real about my views, my intuitions, and what I've learned through research and through talking with borderlines who are in recovery. And as many of you know, there's not a whole lot of channels of people who have been on the other side. There's plenty of channels for borderlines to go and look at what that is. There's plenty of channels for you to go and find out what borderline personality disorder is. But there isn't, to my knowledge anyway, there isn't a whole lot of channels. I think there's some, but there's not a whole lot of channels out there talking about what about us? What about those of us that, we were with the borderline and we got mangled? How do we heal? So I'm very politically incorrect in a lot of ways, and I am an equal opportunity offender, and I'm sure at some point I will offend everybody. So today we are going to talk about what is the true purpose of anger. If you are on the other side of the relationship with the borderline, you now are starting to feel your anger. It's really starting to come up. You spent a lot of effort in the relationship bottling that anger, minimizing it, trying to talk yourself out of it. And now that the person that you wanted to be with is no longer there with you, you've got all this anger. And now you're realizing all of the abusive, horrific things that they did to you. And now you're angry. Now what do you do? Well, it would be very easy for me to take the spiritual, moral high ground and say, oh, you've got to forgive. As true as that is, I could take a position of, why are you so angry? I could, take a position which also would not be inaccurate, and say, well, you're the one that got yourself into it. You chose to repeatedly step into that bear trap. You can't get mad at other people for your choices. That's true. But the other truth is that you've been incredibly damaged, and you've been hurt and betrayed. In some cases, ways that are just mind-boggling. The betrayal, the hurt, the abuse. So it is very normal to have a lot of anger and a lot of resentment. But We have to understand what the purpose of that resentment is, the purpose of that anger, and how to use it. So I'm going to refer to a comment that was left. Bear in mind, if you come onto the channel, whether it's the live question and answer or just onto the channel itself, and if you leave a comment for the whole world to see, because the whole world can see it, I see that as open fodder for me. So the best way to interact with me is to leave an honest question. That's the best way to get the best response from me. If you're passive aggressive, then I'm gonna come after you. If you're abusive, I'm gonna block you. If I think that you have some education left to learn about your part and what borderline personality disorder is, I am going to offer my understanding, because just by leaving the comment, you have created a dialogue. If you don't want my laser-like focus to potentially hurt, offend, or embarrass you, then don't just leave a comment, leave a question. In any case, in response to one of my videos, which is your borderline partner will discard you if they are untreated, it will happen. Somebody left a comment. Now, I don't remember what it was that I said, because just because that was the title, I more than likely said something about how borderlines have a mental illness. And so that may sound to some people like I am justifying their behavior. So let me be clear, I am not. They do have a mental illness, which means that they have a couple of things going on at the very least. One is that they have an inaccurate assessment of reality when they are triggered. So you've known that when they have split on you and raged on you, or whatever it is that they do, and they accuse you of doing or saying or thinking or being something that is absolutely, sometimes completely, the 100% opposite of what's actually going on, you know that they have no real understanding of you or what's happening in the moment. So that to me is a mental illness. When the individual isn't able to interpret objective reality accurately. The other thing that's going on that is also part of their mental illness is that they have extremely strong impulses that they really don't have hardly any control over. I say that because the truth is that even though they have a horrific mental illness, they do have choices. They can choose how they react. But that doesn't necessarily mean that it's easy. So I'm not saying that cavalierly. For all intents and purposes, if they're untreated and do not understand how far from reality they are, even if they do have an intellectual understanding of that, the impulse to act destructively is so overwhelming that it's virtually impossible for them to stop it. Now, having said that, here's the reality. The universe holds us all responsible for our choices. Doesn't matter whether, we have a skewed reaction to it. It doesn't matter that we may have impulses that are so strong that from our perspective, we're incapable of overriding them. The universe still holds us responsible, because even though things are happening on an unconscious level, there are deliberate, this is really important, you need to really understand what I'm about to tell you. That on an unconscious level, unconscious means you're not aware of it. I really wish people would stop using the word subconscious, because it's not an accurate word for this. The unconscious means it is below your level of conscious awareness and you are not aware of it on a conscious level. Nevertheless, it is still deliberate. So to give an example, one of my friends said something that I thought was brilliant. He didn't realize how brilliant it was. I think he heard it from somebody else. But he said, if you're late to work twice, you did it on purpose. Now, the person showing up to work late the second time may not have had any conscious intention, deliberate conscious intention to show up late. But the fact of the matter is that if you know what time you're supposed to be at work, you have an alarm clock, you have a car that works and all of that, and nothing, like a meteor hasn't struck your house or something like that, then there's a choice that's made. And that choice, even though it's unconscious, is deliberate. Now, bottom line is, I just want to make it clear. I'm not giving anybody a pass. There's never a pass for being hurtful or abusive, no matter how difficult it is to overcome the impulse, or no matter how badly your ability to interpret objective reality is hampered. So, having said that, I want to read this comment. So this comment says, and this is the reason why I'm pointing it out, because what I hear in this is I hear some passive aggressiveness. This person is looking at me, with stink eye out the side of their face, and but they make a very good point, and it is really helpful for those of us who are trying to recover from these horrific relationships. It's very important for us to be able to analyze this, because this person is speaking for a lot of other people. So this person says, yeah, I don't feel sorry for the borderline narcissist or psychopath. Those are 3 different types of disorders, by the way, but she's lumping them all together. But before I go any further, that is an understandable place to be, because for those borderlines out there who are interested in knowing, from our perspective, we can't tell the difference. The effect of your behavior looks exactly the same as a narcissist or a psychopath. It looks and feels exactly the same. It's not, unless the borderline has comorbid, but it's not the same from your perspective. We don't know that, though. That's the narcissism that you have, that we're not inside your head knowing what's going on. We only know what you do and what you say and how it feels. And it looks and feels exactly the same. And the end result is it is the same. The effect of it is exactly the same as a narcissist or a psychopath. Having said that, this person lumps them all together because of that reason. There's no doubt in my mind this person is not recovered in their codependence. They're still in a lot of pain. And in order to survive, we need to vilify people who harm us. This is just a human thing. We all do it. It helps us to separate. So by saying, yeah, I don't feel sorry for the borderline narcissist or psychopath, that person is actually working really hard to separate emotionally and psychologically so that she doesn't feel vulnerable to the hoovering or the, whatever it is. And we'll find out. That's really what this is about. She's afraid of being hoovered. So she says, yeah, I don't feel sorry for the borderline narcissist or psychopath. These destructive creeps usually have a sibling that suffered the same abuse, that doesn't spend a lifetime scamming and conning people and ruining lives. And then she goes on to say, ask a heartbroken wife how it feels to have their weak-ass husband seduced by one of these treacherous women. SMH, which of course is shaking my head. Well, I actually completely understand where this person is coming from. And even though, if you ever see the video, I mean, if you see the comment, I came back with some retorts of my own, which I'm not going to take that tack here. Because what's really important to understand is the anger. Somebody else said that too. The reason why I'm feeling this is that there's somebody else that, I know who it was. Let's see if I can find it. I won't read all of it. I'm not trying to put, let me see if I can find it. All right, I'm going to give up in about a second here. Here it is. So, of course, I'm interacting with somebody and I'm saying to them, you're a codependent. You need to get help. talking about them and the big laundry list of what they did to you. I understand it, but that doesn't serve you. What serves you is you got to focus on you. Talking about them all the time doesn't accomplish anything for you. But I understand it. You get in a loop. The anger pushes you in a loop, because if you keep talking about it, it means that you can't resolve it. You can't figure it out. And so that's one of the reasons that we start to vilify, is because we're trying to figure it out. Oh, they must be the devil. Oh, that's why. And then it gives us an ability to separate and move on. But anyway, back and forth, I'm saying to this person, you need help. You're a codependent. And this person says, I might have some codependent, but it's not that I don't want to let go. It's the betrayal and lack of honesty I got a problem with. And of course I responded and I said, that's classic codependence. The anger, the unresolved anger is, it is unresolved. Because let's face it, these are things that have already happened. Things that have already happened in the past. So how does it serve us to be angry 5, 10, 15, 20 years later? I'm the same way. There was something that came up in my life that I hadn't thought about in 30 years. And I realized that I had some unresolved resentment because I was really angry over something that happened 30 years ago. So I get it. So what is anger all about? So there's a difference between anger and resentment. Anger is a flash. Anger is when you're on the freeway and somebody cuts you off and almost knocks you off the road. And you honk your horn and you scream and you yell and you shake your fist. And that lasts for a couple of minutes, ideally. And then when you realize, okay, I'm safe and I'm not going to crash, I'm glad that I survived that, then the anger starts to subside, ideally. That's because anger is there to protect you. It is there to protect you from harm. So when anger flares up, it means that you perceive some kind of a threat. We also get angry when we don't get what we want, and that lets us know, even if something as minor as going on a date, this has happened to me, a few times myself, where, you meet somebody online and, let's meet in such and such time, and they don't show up. And then I'll be angry for days. I don't do it anymore, but, now I know how to let it go more easily than I used to, but be angry for days over that. Well, and then you're saying to yourself, why am I so angry? I've never even met the person. Well, it's because it's a perceived need, the need for love. When you meet somebody online or something like that and you build them up in your head and you start to create a fantasy and project onto them that they're this fantasy person that's going to give you everything that you want, when in reality you just talk to them on OK Cupid or whatever it was, and you said you were going to meet and they didn't show up. Truth is, you had almost no interaction with them whatsoever. It's all inside of you. And so you have all of this anger over something. Could be anything. Anything. Surfing out there, somebody takes off in front of you, and takes you away from you. That's enough. People fight over that. They get in fist fights over that. It's just a wave. There's plenty more. Just go out and get another one. But we have this need that we think that we need to have whatever it is, and when we don't get it, we get angry. It's because we believe that there's a threat to our survival. I'm trying to punch it up so that your feelings are letting you know that you believe that your absolute necessary resources for living are being taken from you. Even if it's something as simple as an interaction between somebody. Obviously, somebody steals your money, burns down your house. We have the same level of anger sometimes over, some date that doesn't show up to the restaurant on time or at all, right? That's why the borderlines get so angry. It's the same thing, because they are in that state of arrested development where they feel that they are going to die. And they've decided that whatever it is you are supposed to give them, if you don't give it to them, they're going to die. And when you don't give to them exactly what they want, how they want, when they're triggered, they flip out because they feel like you are killing them. So, point is, it's important to understand the depth of your anger. But anger is healing. So what is the real, let me get to the point, what is the real purpose of anger? The real purpose of anger is to heal. And if you're still raging, it means you're not healing. It means that there's a wound that is continuously not getting addressed. With borderlines, it's very understandable because we need to understand, if you understand borderline personality disorder as a disease, which this person does not, they understand the label and they understand at least some of the behavior, but this person does not understand that borderline personality disorder is a mental illness. Because if they did, they would go, it's a waste of time for me to be angry. Anger means that you are seeking a rational solution. And this is the insanity of trying to be in a relationship with an untreated borderline. You think, if I can just sit them down and explain it to them. When you're angry, what you're saying is, boy, am I going to tell them off. But it's still coming from the desire to rationally help them understand what they did to you. And in that is an assumption that once you finally say it to them in the way that they will hear it, they will go, oh, I didn't realize I was doing that. Or, oh, you're right. That is horrible. I'm so sorry. I won't do that. And then they'll change their behavior. That is an irrational assumption. Unless the person is not mentally ill. If the person is not mentally ill, then it is a rational assumption, and your anger is driving you to, that's why we have court battles. Court battles are about sitting down and rationally working things out. And that's what the law is there. And the judge comes and brings this objective reality to the situation. So you have an assumption that there's some objective rationality that will be there with you that the borderline will be able to hear and understand, unless you accept the fact that they have a mental illness. And then you go, oh, this is never going to be resolved. So let me get back to the quote here. These destructive creeps, here's the other thing. When you're angry, and this is very codependent, by the way, untreated codependents do this. They get wrapped up. Borderlines do it too. But people who aren't being honest with their own feelings. And what do I say? If somebody is a codependent and they're untreated, what is it that they do? They don't talk about themselves. This person didn't talk about themselves. They talk about other people in the third person. They, throw out platitudes and straw man arguments. Instead of just being vulnerable with their feelings. That's why when people leave comments on the channel, I'll say, please share your interest in this. Are you a borderline? Are you a partner of a borderline? What happened to you? What are your feelings? And sometimes I'll say, you'll get a much better response from me if you share your feelings. Instead of this person doesn't do that. But it's very clear this person is extremely rageful and resentful. These destructive creeps usually have a sibling that suffered the same abuse that doesn't spend a lifetime scamming and conning people and ruining lives. In other words, she's making the argument that it's all made up, that the borderline is making it up because their brother or their sister lived in the same house and they didn't become borderline. And so therefore this whole borderline thing is nonsense and I don't have any empathy for them. Which is ironic because what is it that the borderline lacks when they're triggered? They lack any empathy. They don't have any awareness of how, what they're doing, how it affects you. Or at least that's the appearance. I'm learning that borderlines say, we actually do know what's going on. We just can't stop ourselves. But either way, it looks that way. It looks like you have no empathy. So ironically, this person has become infected. Number one, does not understand and is unwilling at this point. And now let me answer another understandable thing. By the way, we all go through this. I went through it. If you're a partner of a borderline, you've gone through it. So there's nothing unusual about this. So what this person is wanting to do is to lay the assumption. Actually, what this person wants to do is hold on to the hope. This is what she doesn't see. This is unconsciously what's going on. Unconsciously what's going on is this person is holding on to the hope that one day she can confront her abuser and tell him all of the horrible, or her, all of the horrible things that they did and why it was horrible, and they'll finally know what it was and what they did. And you know, we see here some codependence because she makes an excuse for somebody cheating on their wife with a borderline. So these destructive creeps usually have a sibling that suffered the same abuse, that doesn't spend a lifetime scanning and conning people and ruining their lives. That's an assumption. The assumption is that borderline personality disorder doesn't exist, because if it did, everybody who had the same abuse would have the same response. And so I don't have any feelings for them. They're all choosing to do it. So what she's really saying is that they are choosing to harm people. Now, that is a great place to be if you want to stay angry. If you're trying to avoid the pain, then that's a great place to be. If you want to work through the pain, then part of that means, all right, I'm going to try and understand what's going on with the other person. This person doesn't want to do that. And then she goes on to say, ask a heartbroken wife how it feels to have their weak-ass husband seduced by one of these treacherous women. So on the one hand, you are saying that it's not the husband's fault. He's weak. He couldn't help himself. And if it weren't for this treacherous borderline woman who came along and planned out the seduction, he would still be with his wife. Now, I can only assume that this person had a husband that cheated on her. I can only assume that, because why else would you throw that out there? Ask a heartbroken wife. Well, why do we have to narrow it down to the heartbroken wife? Why can't we talk about the heartbroken boyfriend or the heartbroken, whomever? I can only assume that she was married to somebody that got seduced by a borderline. But she says herself, he's a weak-ass husband. And who chose him? You chose him. Why? Why are you choosing weak men that are so easily seduced by somebody who has an irrational mental illness? I mean, there couldn't have been the best relationship that's ever walked the planet. Maybe it was. Maybe you were perfect. I doubt it. More than likely, you have a lot of codependent anger, passive aggressiveness, controlling. Maybe you held out on him sexually. I have no idea. It could have been just that he was a jerk. But even so, why are you choosing to be with somebody who isn't capable of seeing who you are and loving you, in your strength and your beauty? So do you see what I mean? This is codependence. So the way to use the anger is to be first aware of it. Not to, there's two ways to deal with it. We can stuff it down and put a smile on our face and pretend that it's not there. And then you end up really passive aggressive and annoying. Or you become really rageful. Or you probably bounce back and forth between the two. And you indulge in your rage and you indulge in judging. Whether or not your judgment is accurate is not the point. But, to spend your life whining and complaining about what somebody did to you way back whenever, and I know because I do it. I had to work through a fourth step on some anger, like I said. That was 30 years old, and now I feel a lot better. And I realized that it was, I could point out my side of it. Oh yeah, that's because I did that and I did that, and okay. So ultimately, I'm responsible. And that's the bottom line. You're responsible for everything in your life, every relationship you have. You married a weak-ass husband, that's not anybody's fault, that's yours. That's what happens when you marry a weak-ass husband. They'll be seduced by somebody else. By an insane person. Sorry, that came out wrong. Borderlines, I withdraw the last comment. With somebody who suffers from a mental illness. So the purpose of anger is to heal. Once you have the anger, you have to feel it. When you get past the anger, you're going to get to the hurt. Because what this person is not acknowledging is how horrifically she's been heartbroken. And what she should be really talking about if she wants to heal is how horrible it feels that her husband betrayed her. Because the borderline, that's like getting mad at the shark. It's your husband, took a knife and sliced open his leg and then jumped over the side of the boat into shark-infested waters and got himself eaten by a shark. And you're going to get mad at the shark. Shark's just doing what sharks do. If you don't jump in the water, bleeding from an artery, the sharks aren't going to be able to touch you. You stay in the boat, you'll be just fine. So he did what he did, and you chose him. All right. So I don't know if anybody, is there anybody on today? Yeah, a lot of stuff here. So again, the best way to interact with me is to leave an honest question. Even if you think you have something good to say, this is whatever, but these big long paragraphs, I'm going to want to find something in it to analyze. So on the one hand, I'm really glad that people are here and they're leaving comments, but on the other hand, you take your life in your hands because I might put that laser beam onto you. And I do that so that we all learn and grow. That's the whole point of it. So don't take it personally, I hope. I don't see a question here. Jay says, it took me 5 months to get to anything resembling angry. Yeah. Because, I don't know how long you were with the person, but yeah, you have to. I remember I wasn't with my borderline for nearly as long as some of you guys. But I remember during one of her worst episodes where for 3 weeks she was suffering from depression and was on all kinds of crazy medication, anti-anxiety medication, which only made things worse, but in some weird way sort of fixed the borderline issue, but at the same time she was so wrapped up in her core issues and under the influence of whatever the hell those kinds of drugs are. And so I was taking care of her for 3 months, and she did some really weird, hurtful things, and then she seemingly got it all together and seemed all better. In hindsight, what happened is that she stopped taking the medication and she threw up put on a facade. And it's because her mom was coming into town and she put up the facade of having it all perfect and being perfectly coiffed and being very rational. And I didn't realize it was a facade at the time. And that's when she did the worst most hurtful thing anybody could have ever done, was when she was seemingly had it all put together. She was actually better to deal with when she was all falling apart because it was understandable. But when she was all put together and then flipping and doing all the weird stuff, that was so confusing. But I remember that I had put my anger down because I was trying to help her. And my goal was, if we can get her through this period, we get her to therapy, it'll all be okay. Then she put on the facade, got herself all put together and said, yes, I'm going to go to therapy and I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that. And I'm so sorry I did this to you and I'm so sorry, but I'm going to get it together. And I thought, and I relaxed and I went, oh, okay, whew. At least she's going to go to therapy. I've done my part. Maybe I should leave. And then I started thinking about leaving, because I started then having all my feelings about all the crazy things that she did during the whole relationship, but especially during those 3 weeks when I was taking care of her. That, incidentally, she didn't remember any of that. 3 months completely gone, or 3 weeks completely gone. And so I knew that if I didn't talk to her about my feelings, I was going to leave. And I didn't want to leave because she had just now apologized and gone through this catharsis seemingly. And I thought, you know, she's on her road to recovery and I need to be there for her. So in order for me to stay in this whatever, even if it's just a friendship, I got to clear the air. And it was actually a very loving thing to do, because I appreciate when people come to me and they say, hey, I need to talk to you. You know, they're not yelling and screaming, or, you know, they're saying, you know, you did this and you did that and it really hurt my feelings and it made me feel like this. And I don't want that to be between us. I had one of those talks with her and I actually, you know, cried a little bit and she took care of me and all that. So I understand, you know, I had to, you know, when the danger was off, perceived danger was off, then I was allowed to have my feelings again. Because we have to stuff it down. It took you 5 months. So that means that you were stuffing it down for a really long time. It took 5 months for it to thaw out. And you say it's tempered by knowing she's messed up. And again, it makes me want to say, you know, I hope that you can go further with that. Maybe you are. But again, my three-pronged approach. Again, if you want what I have, you got to do what I have done, which is therapy. I'm still in therapy. And Codependents Anonymous, work the 12 steps of Codependents Anonymous with the help of another person in that fellowship. And 3, have a daily spiritual practice. I'm willing to bet the comment that I read, that person has probably none of those things. I hope, Jay, I hope you have that. And if you don't, go get it. And again, for anybody who doesn't know, go to coda.org. There's no excuse. You will not get any sympathy from me if you say, oh, yes, Mike, I know I need some help and I'm going to go do that, but, you know, I can't afford therapy and, you know, I have to do this and I have to do that. Well, then go to coda.org today and go to a Zoom meeting. And the first Zoom meeting you go to, you know, raise your virtual hand and say, I'm a newcomer. I need somebody to walk me through the steps. I will have no sympathy for you if you give me excuses as to why. You want to talk about how angry you are, how hurt you are, how they did this and that to you, yet you're unwilling to do something that takes nothing. I mean, you have my permission to get off of this video right now and go log on. Don't wait. You know, you've got to put the work in to heal. Otherwise, you know, as I've said in my last video, this is an infection. This isn't something that you get out of the relationship and you just normally heal. It's not like that. You've been damaged and infected by a mental illness. And if you don't, that infection could kill you, literally. Could kill you. So get some help. I don't know, Jay, I don't know if you have or not. That's, you know, I'm just putting that out there. Let's see. Again, I'm really looking for the questions if there are any, but since there aren't, I will wade into the long diatribe comments. All right, Paula Rivera, have you gone to therapy and have you been to CODA? Because I'm going to point out in your comment here, you really need some help. You really need some help. She says, I feel like it's frustrating because I can't be angry at my BPDX. Who said that? I never said that. When did I say that you couldn't be angry? I have never once said that. And I'm not saying it now. In fact, if you've listened, I've said you have to be angry. Acknowledge your anger. Your anger is telling you something is wrong. But instead of indulging in the anger at the borderline, which is a waste of time, it's a complete waste of time, you take that anger to a therapist. You take that anger to CODA. They'll help you have the feeling and take the appropriate action to heal yourself. So what you're saying is that you've learned, probably in your family of origin, that you're not allowed to be angry. That's why you chose a borderline, by the way. You chose a borderline because a borderline is going to abuse you. You're going to get angry, and you're going to now follow through with the programming that you were given, which was, if you want to be a good girl, you can't be angry. Better turn that frown upside down. I'll give you something to cry about. Something in that, along those lines, you were programmed that to be a good person, you can't be angry. So you are filled with anger on an unconscious level. So you sought out somebody that was going to stimulate all of that unresolved anger, and then you were going to play your role, which makes you feel like you're being loved. This is the crazy thing. You know, this, I'm trying to tell you guys, if you ended up with a borderline, it's because you've got your own craziness also. That's the big thing. That's why it's a waste of time to talk about he did this and she said that and you don't understand. And I'm an empath. And all you're saying is that you're not acknowledging that something's broken within you. Because no person who's whole chases after a borderline. Nobody does that. So, Paula, you have every right to be angry, and I'm telling you to have your anger. I've said before, just because it's a mental illness does not mean that they didn't make choices, and it doesn't mean that they're not responsible for their actions. Now, if you do understand that it is a mental illness, then if you understand that, then it is your responsibility to not cause that person harm. You are causing that person harm by staying in the relationship. When you stay in the relationship, the borderline has less stimulation to go get help. Kindest thing you can do, I keep saying it, I'll say it again. I know that I got an X here, but kindest thing anybody can do for a borderline is to say to them, I love you. This relationship is toxic to me. I'm going to get out and I'm going to go no contact. And then if they get upset and they want to have contact with you, say, I'm happy to entertain that. In order for that to be the case, I want you to go to therapy for borderline personality disorder a couple times a week for a year. When that year is up, you can have your therapist contact me, and then I'll meet you in the therapist's office, and the three of us will talk going forward about what to do. I mean, the likelihood of that going the distance is virtually impossible, but you will have been reasonable with them. You will have been more than reasonable, and you will have given them the seed. If they choose to take it, they can go get help. If not, they'll find somebody else. Okay, you say, I feel guilty instead. Guilt is anger. So you do feel anger. Guilt is anger turned inward. So how do we feel guilty? When we have anger, but somewhere along the line, somebody tells us, if you're a spiritual person, you can't be angry. How dare you have anger? You can't be an angry person. Or your mom or dad says, I'll give you something to cry about. You better not be angry at me. You better watch your tone with me, mister. And then you take the anger that you can't help feeling. Because this is the thing, guys. We can't help our feelings. We can control our actions, but we can't control our feelings. This is why I won't get into that. Anyway, so your guilt means you are angry. So you're saying, I can't be angry at him, I feel guilty. That's like saying, I can't be angry at him, I'm angry at him. Your guilt is anger. Your guilt means that you are furious with him, that he's doing this to you, and you aren't allowed to have your anger. Makes me feel like I want to hug her instead. I want to hug her instead of having her blocked. Yeah, so you're still in it. You need help. That's just so seriously codependent. That's like, a murderer is stabbing you in the heart and your response is to hug them. It's not rational. I know to you it feels good. It feels you have all this love. That love isn't real love. I'm sorry to tell you. That love is your projection or your transference. You're trying to get abusive mommy and daddy to love you. That's why while your ex has abused you or is abusing you, your response is to hug them. Because you want mommy and daddy to love you. It's not real love. You're projecting and transferring onto this borderline. This borderline has not earned that from you. You really need some help. How do I overcome this? I've already told you. Therapy, 12 steps, daily spiritual practice. All right. And now Jay's going to come in and he's going to fix Paula. I'm not going to stop you guys from doing that, but I do want to point out to you that you're doing it. You're being the fixer. You're just not taking your codependent lens off of the borderline and putting it onto the other codependent. Anyway, you guys can talk to each other, I suppose. I can't stop you, and I'm not gonna try. And I work better when people talk about themselves, Jay, like you did earlier. I like to channel, Pandora says, I like to channel the anger toward myself. Is that a confession, or are you telling us what you think is a healthy thing to do? By finding ways, I enabled treatment to continue to work to change that. That's all right. Okay, I think I understand what you're saying now. Somebody in Cyrillic, is that Maria? Is that your name? Maria Peblenko? I can't read Cyrillic. What tools for recovery did you use? I will tell you again. Number one, therapy with a therapist who knows how to deal with codependence in cluster B personality relationships. Number two, Codependents Anonymous, coda.org. Work those 12 steps. Go and say, I need a sponsor to walk me through the steps. And three, daily meditation of your own choosing. Let's see. Paula Rivera, 2 years post-breakup. So it's been 2 years. 2 years. Ex sent a pic to you. Why are you still allowing them to send you a pic? Of a place we used to go that closed. I said to not contact me and she said she thought I had moved on. Who cares what she says? I mean, you haven't learned by now that what she says may not mean anything, especially if she's in Hoover mode. Obviously, she's hoovering you and or being cruel just to get something, emotion from you. Who knows why she's doing it? I blocked her. Why did she move on and I'm still stuck? She hasn't moved on. Borderlines never move on. The reason why you don't feel any closure is because they never have any closure. It's just the nature of their disease. I could go into that. I don't want to expend the energy into going into what happens to them as infants and why, but there's no such thing as closure ever with them. They move on and they go through the Rolodex of human beings trying to get closure and trying to get connection, but my ex would talk about all of her exes all the time. And, and complain about them and all that. And in fact, while I was with her, I was out of the country. She invited her ex that she broke up with to be with me. She invited him over and he spent the night and nothing happened. I mean, it doesn't matter if it happened or didn't happen. I mean, there's no closure. But the question is, why do you need to ask? Who cares why? Your question of why did she move on and I'm still stuck, your question is, I still want her back. That's what you're really saying, because otherwise you wouldn't be asking these kinds of questions. When you have let go of somebody, you don't care if they're into you or moved on to somebody else. You don't even think about them. You stop thinking about them. My ex-wife from Years and years ago, I don't spend any time thinking about, her and her new husband. I don't care. I don't have anything against them. I hope they're happy. I just don't care because I've moved on. So you obviously are still in love and you're still attached. And again, you need help. You need some help. Ted. Well, I'm glad you got your anger, Ted. Now the thing to do is to use that anger to heal in the ways that I've mentioned. Those three. Take that anger. Don't stuff it down. Don't indulge in it. Take it and go past to the hurt and look at what you wanted. We want to talk about them, like Paula. Why did she? Why? We want to talk about them. We don't want to talk about us. The real question is, why did you? Why did you? And sometimes that's not a question we can answer easily without help. Yeah, so Ted, my suggestion for you is the same. You get some help. This is my point. My point is that being a partner to a borderline is a traumatic event that does not go away on its own. Because as you have all been sharing, the relationship never resolves itself. You're still there. Years later, you're still in the relationship. Emotionally and energetically, you're still connected and attached, and you can't let go. You try to let go by being philosophical about it. You try to let go by being angry about it, like the woman did. I don't have any empathy for those maniac psychopaths because look at what that's her way of justifying why she's still connected to him. She does it through her anger. It's because the bottom line is you still want them. The opposite of love is not hate, by the way. That's why they call it crimes of passion. When you really, really love somebody and they hurt you, there's a possibility you might hurt them. That's a crime of passion. The opposite of love is not hate. The opposite of love is indifference. When you can get to the place where you don't care, that's when you've healed. I don't have any anger towards my borderline ex. I do have a lot of empathy, but it doesn't translate like Paula talked about. I don't need to hug her. I remember feeling that. I remember after researching borderline personality disorder and imagining what she must have gone through as an infant. And I remember just being absolutely racked with horrific pain and sadness for her. And wanting to just hug it, just hug her and, tell her how much I understand. But even that, now in hindsight, I realized that all those feelings were my projection about how I wanted somebody to talk to me. About the fact that my mother was unavailable and abusive, that my father was unavailable and abusive, that my brother was, verbally and violently abusive with me. I wanted and had wanted my whole life for somebody to scoop me up and to take care of me. And because I wasn't completely resolved about that and completely aware, I projected it onto somebody who couldn't give it to me. Because, unrequited love, some of, love stories, the most popular love stories are the ones that have unrequited love. Why? The movies that have unrequited love are about people who are avoiding true intimacy. So if you like movies of unrequited love, it means that you are seeking to avoid true intimacy. Because unrequited love, you get to stay in the fantasy. As what's his name? I forget the actor's name. But as he's sinking under the surface and his hand is reaching up, right? And he died for her. They never got a chance to be together. They never got a chance to love each other. They never got a chance to get to know each other. It was all projection. And the first 9 months of any relationship, even a healthy one, is all projection. That's why around 9 months people break up. You ever notice that? Either people break up or people then decide to really commit and maybe get married. Because at 9 months, the projection fades away, your false projection of who you think they are, which is really about you. You're in love with yourself and you're, oh my God, you're everything and you're the best person. It's really about you. You're in love with a mirror image of yourself that's walking around in another body. And then that starts to fade, and then you see that there's a person there, and they chew with their mouth open, and they fart at night, and they have bad breath, and they leave the seat up, and they don't clean their dishes, and they're human. And then you start to argue, and I don't know if this is going to work, and then you come to some kind of resolution, and then you love each other on a higher level, and then you really get to know the other person, and then you either really fall in love or you break up. If you've been with a borderline, you never got past the projection. Your projection is the love that you feel, Paula, the desire to grab her and hug her, is your projection of what you want somebody to do to you. But you're afraid of that, because the truth is, if somebody came along and did that for real, you would run for the hills. Because if somebody truly loved you, you would have to then face all of the pain of your childhood. You would have to face all of the rejection and the pain that you have not dealt with from your mom and dad. And so we become adults, we push it all into our unconscious, means we're not consciously aware of it. We see, for me, it's the quiet borderlines. Quiet borderline girls, the cute ones, they're so cute, and they're so sweet, and they're so sexy, and they look so innocent. They look like little baby kittens. And I just want to pick them up and hug them, and they're so cute. That's my projection, because that's me as a little 4-year-old. That's me. And I want somebody to do that to me. I want somebody to scoop me up and take care of my little innocent kitty cat feelings. That's my projection. That's what I want. But the reality is, when somebody, and this did happen to me, when somebody showed up and was really there, I was so frightened, and all this pain came up, because in order to allow somebody to love you when they truly love you, you must release all of the unresolved pain to make room for the love that's coming in. This is why you want to know why borderlines leave? That's why. And the ironic thing is, you pick a borderline because you are just one step below that, or above that, however you want to look at it. You pick borderlines because they exhibit your fear of intimacy. And so you're trying to, it's like, what do they call that? Symbolic magic. You're symbolically trying to tell the borderline what you're trying to tell yourself, which is, just let me love you. Just let me love you. But the truth is that there's no shortage of people out there who would turn around and say, yeah, bring it on. Bring on the love. But you didn't pick them. You picked the ones that are incapable of allowing you to receive love because you're incapable. This is why I get so, the irony and the unconscious hypocrisy of the codependent is clear to me, but of course it's not clear to us when we're in it. Let's see what else. So Paula, why are we still talking about her? It's over, right? It's been over for a long time. You're still talking about her. Yes, I'm still in love. She dropped the bomb that she's engaged, which I suspect is a lie. Listen to all that. Oh my God, all of the energy. Who gives a shit? Who gives a shit if it's a lie or not? Who cares? She's not with you anymore. By your account, she's your ex. Who cares? You see how crazy it is? It's because you want to be abused. You want to be abused so that you can re-experience the pain from childhood, and instead of acknowledging what really happened, you're going to blame it on somebody who has a mental illness that's very similar to your own. Who gives a shit? When she contacted me and I said, stop contacting me, but I don't know why I can't stop thinking about her. Well, okay. Go get some help. You can find out. Go get some help. Jay, if you've got a question, the best thing to do is to actually write the word question, because lots of times I won't be doing what I'm doing now. I'll just scroll through. If there's a lot of questions, I'll scroll through all the comments. But next time, write the word question so I see it. Mike, did you experience some avoidance, increased caution toward dating and relationships following your experience with your BPD? Yes. I felt absolutely incapable. I mean, I'm still recovering from that, if I'm being honest. I am dating now, but it's casual dating, and I'm open to the idea of meeting somebody and getting committed. But when I really think about it, I go, I'm not ready for that. But I am enjoying dating, and I let people know up front, and I'm dating other people who are in the same mindset, that they're not looking for anything super committed right now. But yes, absolutely I did. Feeling on your toes and on high alert, that's a little different. I feel uncharacteristically on my toes and on high alert, he says. That seems like you're still in survival mode. It seems like you're still in trauma mode. I'm not on high alert. I'm not on my toes. In fact, I've shared, in this casual dating, I actually dated 2 or 3 times somebody whom I determined was a quiet borderline. And I wasn't triggered by it. I went, I've seen that before. And I just simply went no contact. I had an excuse. I texted her. She didn't text back. And then I put everything together. And, But I didn't spend any time being upset about it or worrying about it. So what I'm saying is I wasn't coming from a place of fear, like I'm on my toes or uncharacteristically cautious. I'm not that way anymore. I'm comfortable. All right, and then Paula says she agrees with me about my assessment about her as a kid. Listen, of course. Look, nobody ends up dating a borderline because they had, a healthy interaction as a child. Sorry. Maybe you can get away with it once. You can, maybe, for a couple of weeks, and then you walked away. But if you were with them for any considerable period of time and you really felt deeply for them, it's because they represent to you, something that happened to you in your childhood, without a doubt. Pandora, question. Is it weird I never want to go past the projection phase, yet I want love? It's not weird, meaning it's not unusual. It does mean that you have some psychological issues. It means that you want love, but you haven't experienced it. And the projection phase, the projection phase is, it's the immature thing. We all have to go through it, but it's immaturity. It means that you don't want to really, number one, be loved on a deeper level. And then on the other hand, it means that you don't have the capacity to accept somebody's love and their imperfections. We can accept the imperfections of the borderline, but they don't truly love us. Not in a healthy, mature way. They feel like they love us, but they don't have a healthy, mature love. So it means, that means that you need to do some work on yourself. Again, I don't know. I don't know if anybody's doing the things I suggest, therapy, CODA. Are you doing those things? If so, keep doing that, and that will shift. Says, now that you're describing how it fizzles out, I feel I'll be disappointed. Isn't that interesting? So it means that you're really not looking for love. You say you're looking for love, but you really aren't. You're looking for a drug, because projection is a drug. That's when, the eyes dilate the most, is in those first 9 months. So that's not a whole lot different than a borderline. It's what borderlines do. They love bomb, and they get all wrapped up in their projection of you, and their eyes are dilated and you're the best and all that. And then some reality hits them, and then they can't tolerate it. You don't do what they do, but you still have it's the same basic thing. Look, codependents and borderlines, to answer the really angry person who left the thing about, a lot of them have siblings who aren't borderlines. Okay, so what? Codependents and borderlines are cut from the same cloth. They have the same basic problem, same basic issue, which is that they didn't get the love and attention that they needed, and they were abused in some way, shamed in some way. It's the same core. That feeling that you have, that's why you feel so badly for them. Non-borderlines, when a borderline does their thing, they're like, wow, that's nuts. That's crazy. I don't want to be anywhere near that. What do? We go like a moth to the flame. We go right in there to scoop them up and to fix them. That's my fantasy. Again, like for me, it's a baby kitten. I'm just going to pick up the little baby kitten, and I'm going to give it so much love and make it feel so loved. Right? But that's the feeling I have. I'm projecting that they're this baby kitten, when in reality, they're doing all kinds of really hurtful things, really just irrational, hurtful things. So that's my projection. That's your projection. Let's see what else. And no, yeah, you guys are fixing each other. Ah, right, Paula, now you're getting it. You're realizing that we codependents are really screwed up. We're not victims. We weren't walking down the street and accidentally stepped in dog shit. We're not victims. We unconsciously were looking for them. Unconsciously means we had no conscious awareness. Hindsight is 20/20. I can look back on it in hindsight, and I can spell out for you what it was for me. My soulmate, who I loved more than anything, who was that perfect person, died. And I was devastated, left a huge hole inside of me. And she literally fixed all of the mommy issues that I had. She actually fixed it in a healthy, loving way. And oh my God, I loved her so much. And she was gone. And even though it had been, a couple of years, I still longed for her and what she did for me, and up popped the borderline, who filled that void as well as the void of my mother, and the unresolved things that my mother had done. Hindsight is 20/20. I can see it now. I didn't see it then, but So what was that? We are, if we're going to heal, this is why, Paula, I keep saying, stop talking about her. It's not about her. And who gives a crap? You say she's an ex, meaning that it's over. Who gives a crap if she's with somebody or not with somebody? Either way, she's still not with you, so who cares? Bottom line is, the end result is the same. You're still not with her, so it doesn't matter if she's... The only reason that you would care whether or not she's lying about having found someone is because on some level you want her back. It's the only reason that you would care. Otherwise, if you don't care, you'd say, oh, I hope she's happy. But it is important that we understand we have something broken within us. If we don't understand that, there's no healing. And then, again, you can watch all the other channels where people just talk and badmouth the borderline. I like that other one. Say they're psychopaths, evil, they're the devil, and I have no sympathy for them. No. Then you're going to stay miserable. Okay, so Pandora, I'm gonna assume you're a borderline. Okay. I was the one with the borderline tendencies, quote unquote, according to my therapist. And then I encouraged her to follow up. I'm starting to think they didn't care because they can't prescribe meds for BPD. How do you come to that conclusion? They can't prescribe meds for BPD, and because of that, they don't care? That's a very borderline thing to do. That is not a rational jump. And, again, I'm not a borderline, so I don't know what borderlines need, but my understanding is that there's different kinds of behavioral therapy. So Pandora, it makes me want to press, why aren't you asking for, hey, isn't this DBT or whatever kind, there's letters for it. Why aren't you online typing in what kind of therapy, helps borderline personality disorder? Why aren't you taking more responsibility instead of looking for a reason to find why somebody doesn't love you, why they don't care? You see, you're just following the script. You know that's your programming, right? Your programming is to knee-jerk assume that everybody has it in for you. That's your mental illness. So one of the things that that codependents learn in 12-step is to do what's called contrary action, which means once you spot, what it is that you do, then you learn to do the opposite. If you can find a way to do the opposite when that first thought that pops into your mind is, they don't care about me, they're doing it to me. And again, I don't know how it's done, but, if you can find a way to stop and go, yep, I'm having one of those thoughts, I'm just going to assume that they do care. And instead of telling them to go fuck themselves, I'm out of here, I'm going to say, thank you very much. Do you have anything else that you can help me with? Do the exact opposite of what your impulse is telling you to do. The negative impulse. Every time you have the impulse to run away, to attack, to accuse, to feel sorry for yourself, it's not your fault. You were programmed to do that. But instead, stop and try and do the opposite. Pandora, I did ask for DBT. They never followed up with me. You're responsible for your own healing. You call them back. You find somebody else. So what are you going to do? Because that one person didn't give you that, you're going to stop trying? Look, man, if you were a heroin addict and one guy didn't have heroin, you'd go to the next one. You treat your therapy the same way. The one therapist isn't giving you what you need, go find another one. I'm not going to co-sign that you're just a helpless victim and they don't care. Who gives a shit if they care or not? They're humans. Some people care, some people don't. Who gives a shit? Go get what you need. That came from a place of wanting to help you, right? All right. Paola, question. Was your fiance sick when you met her? Why do you care? Number one. Also, I had an ex before the BPD one who died, and I think the love of my life now. I'm wondering if I pursued her because she was sick and needed me. As it turns out, yes, she was. And I've had those same thoughts as well. It doesn't strike me that way. I don't, I've gone through that in my mind, but while there may be some aspects of that to it, our relationship was really wonderfully healthy. And so, yeah, it's not something that I'm not completely unaware of. But I don't think that was entirely it. I mean, I don't know enough about your relationship to know. It's definitely could be, but in my case, let's see, what else? Yeah. No other questions? Okay. freedom.spirittao.com is coming. If you're watching this after it's been archived, please do me a favor. If you want to be notified when those videos are ready, email me or don't email me, leave me your email and I will email you and let you know. Otherwise, be prepared for that. I've got something else coming up too, which is for my other channel, but I'm going to share it on this channel as well, which is I'm going to have a 30-day transformation practical how-to, like from sun up to sundown. Exercises and meditations and things you can do to completely transform your identity. Borderlines and codependents suffer from a lack of identity. And so when we have a powerful identity within ourselves, we're bulletproof. It's the only thing that will make you bulletproof in life is if you have a truly empowered identity. And so I'm going to take you through a 90-day process of how to do that, and I'll let you know when that's up and running as well. But if you want to be notified ASAP, you can give me your email address, and I'll put you on the list. And it's not going to be tomorrow, but when it's ready, I'll let you guys know. What else? I can't think of anything else. You're welcome, Pandora, for the tough love. All right, that's it for me. That's what I wanted to talk about with you guys. And so I'm going to go ahead and let's see. Andrew, if you have a question, please write the word question so I don't miss it. See what, if you scroll up to where Paula Rivera, she writes the word question, especially if you write the word question in all caps, I'll see it. But you say, I am confused about the differences between BPD and DPD. I don't know what DPD is. I know what BPD and NPD is. I don't know what DPD is. Let me go look it up. I'm not a healthcare professional, in case you don't know that. All right, let's see what comes up here. DPD is dependent personality disorder. Is a personality disorder marked by feelings of helplessness, submissiveness, a need to be taken care of, and for constant reassurance, and an inability to make everyday decisions without an excessive amount of advice and reassurance from others. Well, I don't know enough about it to know, but what are the differences? There's a lot of similarities. Probably, this is me not really knowing what I'm talking about yet, but I'm willing to bet that they're caused by the same kind of core, childhood or infant trauma. But anyway, I don't know enough about that to answer your question, so I'm just going to shut up there. If I don't know the answer, I don't know the answer. Can you have signs of both? Yeah, because what I just read is also true of borderlines. Some borderlines are this way. My borderline, when she first started splitting on me as we were, driving around and we went to go eat, and she started having a meltdown because I wouldn't order for her. I had no idea. This is before I knew anything was up with her. And, I knew that she had been with, should have been a red flag, but I knew that she had been with a narcissist boyfriend who used to do everything for her. And I thought, that's so, I'm not like that. I mean, if I had known that she was really uncomfortable and that by me choosing, what she should eat, if that would make her feel, I would have done it. But she started, like flipping out and saying, my boyfriend used to order my food for me, and, you should order my food. And I said, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm not that kind of a person. I try, I care about you. Why would I do that? No, I'm get whatever you want. I thought I was being helpful because I wouldn't want that. I wouldn't want somebody ordering for me. So that's definitely part of that. Marked by feelings of helplessness. That's borderlines feel that. Submissiveness. Borderlines, they like that as well. A need to be taken care of or constant reassurance, an inability to make everyday decisions without excessive amount of advice and reassurance from others. There's no doubt in my mind that BPD could have DPD comorbidity. Other than that, I don't know. That's all I know. My question is, why do you, another question would be, why do you ask? But there it is. All right. So that's it for me, guys. I'll see you guys all next time. See you later.